I think Denji's character is moving in a direction of self-love. Denji needs to develop self-love and grow into the rock he so desperately needs. This is not to say Denji doesn't love himself, but he desires gratitude from others more than simply finding that gratification inward. And I think that's what Chainsaw Man Part 2 is going to tackle with Denji's character moving forward.
That was 2 years ago. August 19th, 2023, I uploaded a video deep diving into Denji, peeling back the layers of his character whilst debunking surface level criticisms thrown towards him and Fujimoto alike. Fast forward to December 2nd, 2025 and chapter 222, yet again vindicating me. It's almost like I can see the future, or Fujimoto's watching my mediocre videos. Denji's evolution speaks volumes, but to truly appreciate this development, we need to go back to the beginning. Before he ever becomes Chainsaw Man, Denji is a child forced to grow up too fast, inheriting his father's crushing Yakuza debt and a world that sees him as disposable. He isn't protected, nurtured, or loved. He's exploited. His body becomes currency, his pain becomes normal, and his expectations for life shrink until survival itself feels like a luxury. Denji doesn't learn what happiness is supposed to look like. He learns what bare minimum existence feels like. A slice of bread, a place to sleep, someone who doesn't beat him today. That's the foundation his emotional world is built on. And that matters, because everything that happens later preys on that emptiness. When Denji fuses with Puchita, it isn't a heroic transformation, it's an act of desperation. In theory, he gives up the little humanity he had just to keep living, and even after becoming Chainsaw Man, the world doesn't suddenly treat him better. He's still owned, still controlled, just now by the government instead of the Yakuza. And this is where the manipulation begins. Makima doesn't just control Denji with authority, she controls him emotionally. She offers him affection, validation, and attention in a way he's never experienced before. But it's conditional, transactional. Every smile comes with a leash. And Denji doesn't see the trap because he's never been taught what real care looks like. And not only from Makima, but Himeno takes advantage of Denji sexually. And she is quite older than Denji. He's constantly victimized by the women in his life. Despite all of that though, he has found family, but that family ends in loss. Every time Denji forms a genuine bond, it's ripped away violently, reinforcing the idea that attachment only leads to pain. The world punishes him for caring. The cruelest part is that Denji blames himself. Makima doesn't just take people from him, she reshapes his sense of self. She convinces him that his desires are shallow and his dreams are stupid, that his only worth is obedience. By the time the truth is revealed, Denji isn't just devastated, he's hollowed out. Now earlier I touched upon Himeno and Denji's sexual exploitation, and that's to say Denji is not sexualized throughout the story, he's exploited, and that distinction matters because what happens to him isn't about desire or attraction, it's about power. Denji is a teenage boy whose body is going through normal hormonal changes, but he has no guidance, no education, and no safe adult in his life to help him understand what those feelings mean. The adults around him recognize that vulnerability and take advantage of his hormones become leverage. And these older figures, specifically Makima, use intimacy, touch, and sexual attention as a tool to control him.
I realized something just now. Every single time I meet a girl, she ends up trying to murder me! Everybody's after my chainsaw heart! What about my heart? Denji's heart! Does nobody want that? Ah!
Makima doesn't see Denji as someone discovering his identity. She doesn't see him at all. She sees someone easy to stare, easy to pressure, and easy to condition. Every interaction is shaped by imbalance, age, authority, experience, and control over his basic needs. This is grooming. Denji is slowly taught that affection comes with strings attached, that closeness must be earned through obedience, that if someone crosses his boundaries, it's not harm, it's generosity. Because Denji has never been shown what healthy care looks like, and the only two people to ever do so tries to kill him and dies when they get too close. There is no space for informed consent. Denji's housing, food, safety, and future are controlled by the one person initiating most of his sexual encounters. When saying no risks abandonment, punishment, or loss, choice becomes an illusion. Compliance becomes survival. But those things aren't in Denji's mind. He doesn't think about choice. He's just happy to be acknowledged by Makima. And this reshapes how he sees himself. He begins to believe that his worth is tied to how desirable he is to others, that confusion and discomfort are normal. Instead of being allowed to explore his feelings safely, he's rushed, pushed, shaped into accepting situations he doesn't understand. And it doesn't even stop with Makima. Fumiko also similarly exploits Denji and even Yoru. The tragedy isn't that Denji necessarily wants intimacy. The tragedy is that no one ever protects him when he's learning what it means. Denji's constant battle with manipulation and abuse causes him to change. We see it when Asa kisses him and he closes his mouth in fear of having vomit run down his throat or having his tongue bitten off. Even the way he views sex, which I spoke about in this video. To sum it up, sex is a sacred act, and so far it's the only act of intimacy that Denji has not had tarnished for him. But his relentless battle with abuse and manipulation has left scars that go far beyond the physical. These wounds are etched deep into his sense of self. Throughout Chainsaw Man, the cruel lesson he's learned again and again is that he's only loved, only valued when he's useful. To be more specific, Chainsaw Man is valued and useful, not Denji. The idea isn't just a passing thought, it's burned into his identity so fiercely that it shapes every choice he makes. By the time we reach Chainsaw Man Part 2, Denji's relationship with his own humanity becomes fraught and conflicted. The lines between Denji the boy and Chainsaw Man the weapon blur. For Denji, Chainsaw Man is not just a power or a role, it's a shield against a world that never saw him as more than a tool. Rejecting the Denji, the human, feels safer than risking vulnerability. This internal fracture becomes most evident in his interactions with Yoshida. When Yoshida gives Denji the ultimatum, stop being Chainsaw Man or else, he isn't threatening Denji's physical survival, he's challenging the very foundation of Denji's identity. Chainsaw Man isn't simply a form or a facade, it is the embodiment of Denji's survival instinct and his only perceived path of being worthy of attention and care. The trauma of conditional love has trained him to believe that his true self, the vulnerable, ordinary Denji, is unlovable. So he chooses the monstrous identity that demands respect, rather than risking the rejection that might come with simply being himself. We see this on two separate occasions: when he tries to out himself on public television to attract women, and when he brags about being Chainsaw Man to Asa. This struggle illustrates a powerful theme. Trauma can fragment identity, forcing someone to disassociate from their authentic self to survive. Denji's rejection of himself in favor of Chainsaw Man shows how trauma's shadows linger even in moments of apparent strength. It's a painful, complicated path towards healing, self-acceptance, and redefining what love and worth truly mean. Then there's Nayuta, Denji's last thither to innocence and hope. Her death is another devastating blow, shattering the fragile peace he's tried to build. Nayuta's loss deepens Denji's internal conflict, reminding him how quickly the people he loves can be taken away and how little control he truly has. At the same time, Denji's struggle with Asa, the first girl since Power, and arguably Reize, who sees Denji beyond the Chainsaw Man. Asa represents a chance to be seen not as just Chainsaw Man, but as Denji, the person beneath the monster. Yet this is complicated by Yoru's presence, whose own complicated feelings force Denji to confront the parts of himself he's tried to suppress. This tension between being seen as a weapon versus being recognized as a person defines Denji's ongoing battle. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about breaking free from the cycle of loss and pain and finding someone who can see past the Chainsaw Man mask to the real Denji inside. And this is what brings us to chapter 222, appropriately titled Denji Man. And this chapter can be summed up by one sentence:
I choose me.
Honestly, this entire chapter can be summed up in 4 minutes by listening to Kendrick Lamar's Mirror off his 2022 album Mr.Morale and the Big Steppers. And honestly, this was the spark that created this video. This is extremely ironic considering both Chainsaw Man Part 2 and Mr.Morale are both controversial works in their own right. But before we dive into Mr.Morale and Chainsaw Man, if you've enjoyed this video so far, please hit the subscribe button. It's the new year and I'd love to hit 50k by the end of the year. I make these kinds of videos on a wide array of pop culture topics, and all the support helps. If you'd like to take that support a step further, consider supporting the Patreon for only $1 a month so I can keep making these videos more frequently, or pick yourself up some sweet anime inspired merchandise from the channel's continuous sponsor, Boomslang. Let's get back to today's topic. Chainsaw Man's Part 2 release sparked a lot of debate and controversy within the manga community. Many readers felt that Denji's character hadn't changed much from Part 1, arguing that his growth was stagnant or superficial. Others criticized the story for feeling unfocused, unsure of what direction Fujimoto was taking the story in. The introduction of Asa, a major new character, was also met with mixed reactions. Some fans disliked her initially. The skepticism added to the feeling that the narrative was struggling to find its footing early on. These critiques mirror some of the challenges that Kendrick Lamar's Mr.Morale and the Big Steppers faced upon release. That album, much like Chainsaw Man Part 2, dives deep into trauma, identity, and personal struggle, subjects that can be uncomfortable and polarizing. Some listeners embraced its raw honesty, while others found its themes difficult or disjointed. At one point, it boiled down to, you can't listen to this in the club, so it was worthless. The connection between the two works lies in their willingness to explore messy, complex emotional landscapes without easy answers. That in itself can be controversial. With Kendrick, it was somewhat a departure from his last studio album, and for Chainsaw Man, it was a slow burn in addition to replacing the main character within its earlier sections. And again, the one song in Mr.Morale that I think captures Denji perfectly and serves as the catalyst for this video was Mirror. A mirror itself is a reflection of the person looking into it, and the song is Kendrick doing just that. It's a deep self-exploration where he sheds the mythos of Kendrick Lamar and communicates to the audience he is only human. He's not a savior, and he's tired of trying to live up to the ideas people have placed upon him. One lyric in particular not only perfectly describes Kendrick's journey from self-rejection to self-acceptance, but also Denji's.
I can't live in the matrix, rather fall short of your graces. This time I won't trade places.
This, in addition to this one panel in Chainsaw Man Part 1, defines Denji's self-image moving forward. So, I made a gamble. I bet that the whole time Miss Makima had only been looking at Chainsaw Man and not me. That she never saw me even once at the start. This burden had defined Denji for most of his life. The idea of swapping places becomes especially on the nose when Pochita takes over Denji's body as the Black Chainsaw Man. In that state, Denji doesn't just lose his sense of self, metaphorically, he loses it literally, becoming a near-mindless monster incapable of forming coherent sentences. By contrast, Denji Man represents the opposite outcome, a version of Denji who is fully in control of the complete Chainsaw Man transformation. This Denji has accepted who he is, reconciled the human and the devil within him, and no longer needs to become someone else or erase himself for validation.